Welcome to Investing in the US. I am your host, Reed Goosens, and we're coming to you live from the IIREC, the Intelligent Investor Real Estate Conference here in sunny California. And I've got with me here today Christopher Nelson, a good friend of mine. Used to be a California resident, but not anymore.
Right.
He is now living in the lovely state of Texas.
That's right.
In an awesome town, little town, you might know of it, called Austin, Texas.
Yes.
But Christopher, welcome to the show. How you been, mate?
I have been very well. I think I just told you that, yes, we had a pipe burst over the weekend, was not related to any weather. That just sucks in general. But other than that, I've been doing very well in Texas.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, today we want to talk a little bit about what you've been up to, because you and I we've been friends for a long period of time.
We have.
You've gone through a lot of transitions coming out of the tech world, Silicon Valley startups into real estate, and now what you're focused on. So for those people who don't know who you are, what you do, give us maybe the 2 to 3 minute elevator pitch on your background to bring us up to what you're doing today.
Okay, great. So my name is Christopher Nelson. I am the co-founder and principal of Wealthward Capital. But before that, I spent 20 plus years in the technology industry. So helping people manufacture software and then also helping companies go from private to public through IPO events. And it was actually in one of those IPOs that my family went through a sudden wealth event. What does that mean? It's that event that we all dream about, we want, that says we literally had nothing. And then overnight we had multiple seven figures in the bank. And then there was this moment of, oh, what do we do with this? I'm very stressed out. And so this took us on a journey of passive investing, of also DIY investing, because we did not want to turn our money over to somebody else and trust them with our financial future. We wanted to take that in our own hands. And so, as you know, because you've been part of my learning, is learning how to passively invest, tracking off of people who have experience in the real estate industry of where to place our money in multifamily, and have been doing that with you for multiple years. And then this year, we really started diversifying into more asset classes. And so one of those that we are really, really fond of right now is mobile home parks.
And you've been, up until the point of leaving the tech world, your focus was, I guess, talk about the time that you thought, I need to change. I need to get out of the tech and into raising money and investing in real estate, because there's a mental shift there that a lot of people go through, particularly people at this event even today and over the weekend. So maybe just touch a little bit on that, and then we'll dive into what you're investing in now and how that's shifted over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and so I think what my journey actually started off with, we wanted to deploy our own capital. We just wanted to be great limited partners. We wanted to be great passive investors. And as we started passive investing, as we started learning how to do due diligence, how to vet operators, how to actually then start tracking our results, we had a lot of people raising their hands saying we needed help. And so we actually did not, my wife and I did not get into becoming GPs or general partners in helping syndicate deals, because we actually thought that was a way to get into financial independence, but we saw it actually as a way to help others. And then as we started picking up more and more momentum, we realized, hey, this is really an opportunity for us to not just help other people, but this is a way for us to make a living for our family. That was really how it happened for us.
And I think a lot of people go through that sense of dread, right? You're in the workforce, you're hooked up to a W-2, and particularly coming out of tech, you're hooked up to probably a very good W-2. All the benefits, all the bells and whistles, they've locked you in. So having that impetus, that drive, that burning desire to go out and do more, I think is kudos to you and your family. So well done. And talk to us what you've built today, because I know you've got Wealthward Capital. For those people who are listening in, it's Wealthward Capital. And you were primarily involved in my deals, in Wildhorn's deals.
Yeah.
Up until, not only up until recently, you still are, but you've now made a bit of a shift out of multi into mobile home parks.
That's right.
Talk about what that shift and how that came about for your investors, and how you're backing into a return and what they like to see.
Well, I think as we both know, right, as we have been continuing to invest in multifamily inside of Central Texas, we started having to make a choice, right, of, okay, do I want cash flow shares that I'm not participating in the equity upside, or do I participate in the equity upside and then start compressing my cash flow, which, for us that are leveraging our cash flow to supplement, a lack of W-2, that cash flow is really important. And guess what? We want the equity upside. So I wanted to continue to have the equity upside, and that's where we're, with my family and I and our deals, like we're investing in the equity upside, but we wanted to find more cash flow. So that was really what led us to start looking around at other asset classes and saying, okay, we understand with compressed cap rates, investing in places like San Antonio and Austin, we're not going to get the cash flow that we want. Where else is that? And so we started looking at mobile homes, and mobile homes communities, as you know from Bryce and others, right, is that it's not a mature market as you'll find in multifamily. There's not as many educators, number one. There's not as many people who really want to go and participate. And the number one reason is the fact that there are not property management companies that you can go outsource to that are going to take care of your mobile home park. If you want that done, you have to either build the team or you have to find a set of people who really want to do that.
And are you partnering up with other people like you did with us at Wildhorn, or with other, because I know you partner with other people.
Yeah.
And is it, you mentioned cash flow, and a lot of people at this conference this weekend, we're sitting here in January 2022, are talking about inflation, right? And over the last 12 months, or even longer, cap rates have compressed, not only in multifamily, which we've seen a massive compression, and for those people listening, compression in cap rates means less cash flow,
That's right.
But you've also seen that in the mobile home park space. Was the shift away from multi to mobile home park in pursuit of yield because multifamily was getting so thin?
That's right. So it was in the pursuit of yield. And then, whenever I start any type of pursuit of an asset class, I want to start macro. I want to look at the broader asset class and say, okay, what's going on here? And what we found is that again, in mobile home parks, let me go back to multifamily. When you look at multifamily, you see that there are people who are playing in very large multifamily like we do. We want 100 units and above. That's where we play. But you also find mid-tier operators that are buying 100 units and below that are saying, oh, hey, there's a lot of inefficiencies there. We can go operate there. What we found in mobile home parks is that a lot of people really want the same thing, the 100 pads or above. But when you look at that 100 pads or less, nobody's playing there. And the inefficiencies still exist. And so what we found a partner that their strategy was really, how do we actually find small parks that are geographically dense, that are located very close to each other, that then we could take down and operate as a single unit. And what we found there is we found very high cap rates. We found 8, 9, 10% cap rates that we could go in and purchase with park owners.
Today as well?
Today. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to give him my card. No, we are, because the reality is nobody wants these parks. That's the reality, because in multifamily, you have people that have gone to the Brad Sumrocks, that have gone to a lot of these educations and say, okay, I'm going to go run these mid-tier. That's not happening in mobile home parks. Everybody wants the 100 pads and above. So we saw this inefficiency. We're operating in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where in that MSA, 400 mobile home parks. It's a decent number.
It's a lot.
100 of those parks are 100 pads and above. Okay. So that means there are 300 parks that fit our criteria. And 90% of them are owned by mom and pops that have built the place, that are running it at 80%, 70% occupancy. Why? Because they can. We hear a lot, I don't want to deal with people. I'm not bringing in people because I just don't want to deal with them. And they're running it as a cash business. Collect 10, deposit 8. So what we're finding is that these places won't appraise. There's a lot of room to negotiate, because more than anything, these operators want out.
It's interesting when I hear of the 9 to 10% cap rate, and for those people who are listening in, watching in, and listening to the podcast, you've probably heard me talk a lot about cap rate is also a measure of risk.
Yes.
Right? And I can imagine in my head something less than 100 pads at a 9 or 10. It sounds good on paper.
That's right.
But the risk is higher that you're going to not be as polished. And I remember going back to, when I say polished, meaning it's not going to be the scale, and scale comes with on-site management and on-site oversight.
That's
and,
right.
and payroll and all those things that you can afford when you get to scale.
That's right.
I remember when I first bought my first property for $38,000 in upstate New York, and it was Section 8 housing, right? The cap rate looked great, but it was one property.
That's right.
And I had a property manager who didn't really give it a lot of attention, And because it's just one asset, and I was like, why aren't you giving me all this attention? Now where I'm like buying 200-300 units, you have a whole team. So is there some sort of, are you getting the inefficiencies there under the 100 pads because they're just, people don't want to manage them and thus the cap rates are higher?
That's correct. That's exactly it. No, you put your finger on it, is because we found that a lot of these owners have these smaller parks. They're running them very inefficiently. What we did is we went and raised the capital to get our first 120 pads under management, create our team, so that now as we're adding these smaller parks, we're just pulling them into the umbrella, and we're just scaling.
And I assume you said Fayetteville, so you're being very specific on a market, so you can go and scale, right? You can go get 500 pads, but they might be across 7 properties.
That's correct, right. or even more. And so what we're looking to do is that's exactly right, is go hyper local, hyper focused, own the block.
Got it.
And that's actually one of the things that people, again, what are some of the big guys missing is there's the opportunity. We literally, over the course of 3 months, purchased 120 units that are within one block of each other.
That's fantastic. That's incredible. And real estate is a local game, and I think that's so important that you find a niche and then pull the thread until you have owned the entire block or you have scale. Because I do see a lot of people who are, I'm going to buy a deal in Fayetteville, I'm going to buy a deal in Dallas, I'm going to buy a deal in Louisiana, and they're not hyper-focused. And hyper-focus comes to help lead to scale, to help bring more efficiencies in the business. So,
well, and let me bring this back, is because, quite honestly, is a lot of what I saw in this group was operating off the model that you and Andrew put together, hyper local. And I remember when you guys were getting started, it was like, well, wait, but there's more in Dallas. No, hyper local. It's Austin, it's San Antonio, and that has been tremendously successful. And so, again, sometimes I think in real estate, people want to get fancy, or they do covet other places, other locations, when it's like, no, just rinse and repeat. And somebody, I think today at the conference, mentioned, it's a guaranteed, what is it? Go slow and get rich.
Yeah. It's not a guaranteed. You're not getting in this business to get rich quick. It's get rich slow. And,
That's right.
And if you're trying to get in here and make $100 million and sit in front of a Lamborghini in 90 days, this is not crypto, guys. So if you want to get in crypto, there's a whole other space for that. We're not in that space. So get rich slow. Yeah, you're right. So. Again, I'm going to come back to inflation. I'm going to come back to what's happening in 2022. We're sitting here in January. What's your prediction? What's your crystal ball got in your sphere? And what do you think for your as you communicate that out to investors as you navigate this new year?
Well, so number one is inflation is here, and I think and I've heard a lot of people speak today, and I haven't really sat down and thought through, like, am I making any changes to my thesis? But I do know that there is consumer inflation and there is asset inflation. And so I think that what I am communicating to my investors is now is a time to invest, to make sure that we are a part and invested in assets that are appreciating, because we do want to make sure that our capital basis is continuing to grow with the asset, number one. But then number two is, let's just make sure that we are either partnering or we're in control of how do we throttle capital improvements and things that are going to be capital intensive, and putting that into transactions, because there's also going to be inflation there too. And we don't want to make sure that we have, a growing expense line while we're trying to preserve inbound capital.
I think the biggest thing we're all investing in real estate for is the protection of capital, right? So, I'd probably add number one would be, don't lose people's money, right? That's and you're investing in physical assets. So I think, I'm going to talk a lot here today at the conference in and around different experts like yourself. Yeah. And I think the whole theme of this conference, and I've got a leaderboard over here, what asset class is the most frothy right now? Yeah. I think multifamily would have to be up there. But we're seeing compression across the nation in a lot of asset classes. And it's going to be great throughout the next 2 days, talking to people like yourself, understanding where you're investing, your hyper-localism, what you're thinking the future is, and how do you protect people's money, and how do you still get a yield? Because I think the big thing here is, coming as an international, people invest in US real estate for the yield. I think commercial real estate in the US is by far the best yielding in the Western world, in my experience, and partnering with operators like myself, like you, and getting knowledge about what's happening in this country is really, really important. So I want to thank you for jumping on the show. It's only a short little 20-minute episode, but where can people reach you? They want to continue the conversation, they want to reach out to you, where do they go?
Well, right now, go to thrivecommunity.fund. They can learn more about what we are doing inside of mobile home parks. And then if they want to reach me, they can go to wealthward.com. That's wealth and WARD, all one word, moving you towards wealth, one step at a time.
Awesome, my friend. Look, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the show today. Enjoy the conference. What do you got planned for while you're here in sunny California?
Well, trying to get some sun while I'm outside, and then just continuing trying to learn and network. I just love these events so much because we get to hear new ideas, see what other people are doing, and meet new people. It's always fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, thank you so much again for jumping on the show. We're going to keep doing this. We've got 4 or 5 other more episodes coming to you. I want to thank you all for taking some time to tune in to increase your financial IQ, because that's what we're all about here on this show. If you do like this show, give the show a 5-star review on iTunes. And we're going to do it all again next week. So remember, be bold, be brave, and go give life a crack.